he was in a lot of those movies. He was Raging Bull, right? Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
What else was he in? Salvi,
Sopranos, wasn't he?
Casino, and he was
Was
yeah,
he?
he was in Casino. He was Pesci's right hand man in
I
Casino.
never saw Casino.
Talking about Frankie Vincent. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, Casino, true story. Casino is a true story.
Really?
Yeah, and watch it this
All
weekend.
right.
You know what else is a great movie?
Mm.
I mean, we're talking about movies before we start. The Founder with Michael Keaton about McDonald's. I mean, if you're into that, I mean,
McDonald's hamburgers?
yeah, yeah, how it started. I mean, think how big they are, the worldwide, right? Worldwide, how did you start from one thing, one place, and go? It's an amazing story. And I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. Are you?
I like him. I just, after Batman, I'm not sure what he did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How about what's that one?
Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice.
That was him, right?
Yeah, yeah. What about the one where he was the mom? He was the father that had to stay home. Oh God, put it in the comments. What's that? Oh, it was so funny. That was right. All right, you ready for a countdown?
Yeah.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the next episode of The Jersey Alchemist. I'm your host, Dr. John Gerard Galucci.
And I'm Philip D'Angelo. What's up, bud?
Well,
Everything
what's
good?
up? Yeah.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
You're in good spirits.
I'm in good spirits.
Okay.
Yeah. I am. I'm hiding my water bottle behind St. Michael.
Oh yeah.
But I can't stand drinking water out of a plastic bottle. It makes me sick. And that's probably why I constantly run dehydrated.
Yeah, dehydration. I think, and again, I don't know if this is accurate, but if you're like 10% dehydrated, 10 to 15% dehydrated, you lose almost 50% of your strength. That's how much dehydration, how much the water, it's dependent. Especially you're a coffee drinker.
I am.
All
That
right.
makes it worse. Yeah.
That's a diuretic, right? So
Sure it is.
you're losing anything with caffeine,
Right.
John, I want to touch. People don't realize, what we go through. I know we mentioned this before with pre-production meetings. We talk about what we're going to talk about, maybe sometimes, but a lot of times before the cameras go on, we start with a prayer. And I know you pray to a special saint. Who would that be?
Well, to answer that question truthfully, I pray to any saint that'll listen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I kind of like bargain that way. Okay, you're not listening.
Right.
Is there anybody else up there?
Hello.
Right. But, there, for the non-Catholics out there, you're going to think that this is complete bullshit. And I am not enamored with the Roman Catholic Church at this stage in my physical evolution. I'm not. I could go, that's a different topic for a different episode.
Absolutely.
We can talk about that forever, but I could tell you that
Today was a specific saint, though.
today was a specific saint. It was Saint Anthony of Padua. Now, for all of you ethno-aware people, Saint Anthony of Padua was Portuguese. He wasn't Italian. Okay, so please don't think that because Galucci and D'Angelo, we have these vowels at the end of our name, and I kind of look like the actor Frankie Vincent with my salt and pepper hair. No, I don't pray to just Italian saints. That's ridiculous. One of my favorite saints is Saint Augustine of Hippo. Saint Augustine of Hippo, or Saint Augustine of Hippo. Why Hippo? He was African. He was a Berber from North Africa, and there's a good chance that he was black. And if you look up Saint Augustine of Hippo and look up famous quotes from saints, oh my God, that guy was prolific, and I think his lifespan was from 354 to 430 AD. And the
Wow.
guy was a genius. He was also a Roman citizen. That had nothing to do with anything, but he lived in that era. And he was probably smart enough to understand that if you can't beat him, join him. And his life was better being a Roman citizen of North Africa. But today I was praying to St. Anthony of Padua, Portuguese. He spent lots of his life, lots of his notable career in Italy, but not Italian, Portuguese. And another one that all the Italians like to claim is St. Teresa of Avila. She was Spanish, she wasn't Italian, but doesn't matter to me, okay? Anyway, whenever I'm at a loss for something, it was made abundantly clear to me by my mother's mother, my grandma, Jaimo, who lived with us
Amazing
when
woman.
I was in college. And she said to me, if you need to find something, she goes, it doesn't have to be a physical object that you lost. I can't find my wallet. I can't find my car keys, whatever. I can't find my driver's license. She says, anything that you are seeking, she goes, pray to Saint Anthony. He's the patron saint of lost items or things that humans on this planet are seeking. So if you're looking for peace of mind and solace, pray to Saint Anthony. You can pray to the other saints too. It's not like they say, hey, that's not my department. I work in washers and dryers and you're in nuts and bolts. It doesn't work that way. They'll respond. But this is the story that changed my life when it came to actually paying attention and praying to certain saints, like what department they were in charge of. Sounds kind of like a joke, but okay, let's go with the story. So it's about 1:30 in the morning and I'm in college and I'm studying for some big chemistry exam. And I wasn't a chemistry beanhead. If you go back to high school, you won't find my black and white picture in the Future Doctors of America with all the chemistry students in there with their test tubes and their Erlenmeyer flasks. I was not that guy. I was on the track team, I was on the football team, and I was in the library during study hall looking at the Time Life series of international cuisine because I
Great
was
series.
just totally in love with international cuisine and food and cooking. And I was convinced at that stage of the game that I was going to be a chef and I was going to own a restaurant because I had such passion for it. Wow. But it wasn't math or science. I was like okay in it. It was a little bit of trying to slam a square peg into a round hole for me. Anyway, so here I am, a late bloomer on the pre-med scene. I didn't go to college with the thought of going to med school. I was a jock and I was in an education track. I thought I was going to become a teacher like my dad, and it just didn't flick my bick. So, speaking of bick pens, it's 1:30 in the morning. I've got an 8 o'clock, like massive, like whatever, big quarterly or midterm or something exam in chemistry. And I was the kind of person that, I don't know, no one's ever diagnosed me as being dyslexic, and I don't know whether I am or not, but I'll tell you what, I may have ADHD or something like that, or ADD, because if if I had to read a technical textbook, I was reading the same paragraph 5 times in a row, and I couldn't tell you what the hell it was trying to say. So, as a consequence, I had to rewrite every word of every page of every chapter. Then I would get a ruler and a pen and underline every line and mouth it and tongue it and say it and contemplate it. Then after the ink was dried, I'd get my yellow highlighter and I'd yellow highlight it. And then after that was dried, I'd get my pink highlighter and override the yellow with the pink, and then it became orange. So that's how I studied pre-med and through dental school and medical school. I did it the hard way. I sure did. Now, the house I grew up in was not an academic house, and if we had a drawer at a desk that my father used, whatever, to pay the bills or something, and there was a drawer in that desk with pencils. None of the pencils had a viable tip, and none of them had good erasers. Catch my drift? Anybody out there live in one of those houses? If there was another drawer with pens, only one pen out of 40 worked. The rest of them were garbage, but no one seemed to want to take that big leap of faith to say, garbage. Let's go out to the supermarket or the drugstore and buy a fistful of brand new pens. So it's 1:30 in the morning, and I'm exhausted, and I'm a bit intimidated because I can't just take this test. I gotta ace the test, and it wasn't my natural backyard. It wasn't. Inorganic chemistry wasn't really where I belonged. Other kids, that's where they belonged. Okay? So I'm playing with the pen. I got the pen in my hand and I'm fidgeting and I'm reading what I outlined and what I highlighted and I'm reading it and I'm speaking it out loud. I'm speaking the words out loud in hopes that it would go out my mouth and in my ear and some of it would stick into my brain. And I unscrewed the pen and boing, the pen spring flew out and went off into the room somewhere. And I'm sitting at the dining room table in the dining room. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, fine. This is the only pen in the house that works. And now I'm relegated to taking that skinny little cartridge, which is really tough to write with. It's going to slow me down. And I've got hours and hours to go. And I'm on my fifth coffee. And now I just have had it. And I'm like, oh God, this isn't going to fucking work. So get on my hands and knees. And I'm just, I got a cloth. I'm looking everywhere. I got a flashlight with batteries that work. That's a big surprise in my household. I'm looking underneath the hutch, which is a big high credenza. I'm looking under the side tables. I'm crawling underneath the table. I'm picking up an area rug. I'm thinking maybe it hit this and bounced underneath the couch, which separates the living room from the dining room. I was everywhere and got nowhere and couldn't find the goddamn pen spring. So I'm on my hands and knees. And my grandmother, God bless her, who was in her 80s, the Night Stalker, she appears. She appears in the dining room, and I hear her voice, and she says, "What are you doing on the floor? It's 1:30 in the morning." And I picked my head up, and I looked there, and I said, "Seriously?" I told her the story. The spring went up in the air. I said, now I'm screwed. I got hours to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep. I said, I can't find the spring. Grandma, I'm screwed. She laughed at me. She shook her head like I was just this recalcitrant moron. And she said, how many times have I told you that if you need to find something, pray to St. Anthony of Padua? And I was so sarcastic. I love my grandma. I was really close with her, so I could get away with being sarcastic. And I said, oh, yeah. Silly me, 1:30 in the morning. Yeah, oh, St. Anthony. Yeah, right. And she says, I've been telling you this for years. He's the patron saint of lost items. She says, have you tried praying to St. Anthony? I said, no, and I'm not going to. She says, well then, she goes, good luck. You're never going to find your spring. She goes, just try it. She goes, humor me. She goes, just right now in front of me, pray to St. Anthony. And I really sarcastic, and I went, okay. Dear St. Anthony, I said, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm stressed. I'm exhausted. There's a big chemistry exam tomorrow, and I can't find the damn spring to my pen. Please, St. Anthony, help me find the spring to my pen. And as soon as the N came out of my mouth, pen, my head turned, and I stared in between the hutch and a side table. The side table wasn't supposed to be there. It was just kind of an extra piece that they kind of put in there. There was a crack between those two pieces of furniture that was about 2 inches. And somehow there was a little enough glow from the chandelier over the table that it was shining on the junction of the woodwork and the dining room hardwood floor. I had been all over that woodwork, everywhere. I was frantic. I I didn't even look at my grandmother. She didn't know what I was looking at. I jumped onto my knees and I thrust my arm into that space and I felt something in my fingers, the tip of my fingers, at the junction of the floor and the woodwork. And I pulled it up and I was speechless. And I looked at my grandma and she just laughed in my face and she says, "Don't ever, never doubt me again, and don't ever doubt St. Anthony again." And I was completely gobsmacked. And I put the spring back in the pen, I put the pen together, and I studied without going to sleep, and I drove myself to the college because I was a commuter student, and I took my test and I collapsed after the test. And I never forgot that. Now, I've got a lot of stories. That's just what really was the slap in the face for me, that this stuff is not a joke, it's real. I have used St. Anthony over and over and over and over again to find things that I can't find. Case in point, all of the pediatric anesthesiologists that I worked with, they knew the story. They would rank on me and they would, joke with me, especially the non-Catholics, the non-Christians, and here they are now with a chubby, dehydrated baby that we were supposed to do surgery on, and now it's an hour that they can't get an IV. 3 really good pediatric anesthesiologists. It's the saphenous veins on each side, it's the dorsum of the hand, it's the intern's vein, it's this vein, it's that vein, no vein. And now the kid's just getting more and more dehydrated. So it's like, okay. I had a medical student with me, and I write about this story in my book. And a medical student, I knew he was not Christian. And he looks at me, and I said, "You see what's happening here?" I said, "I get 3 of the best pediatric anesthesiologists I've ever worked with. They're top notch. And nobody can get an IV." I said, "So if you can't get an IV, you can't give anesthesia, no surgery. You get that?" He goes, "Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, I got that." Okay. I said, "Watch what I do here." I said, where would be the typical veins for an IV that are devoid of multiple pokes and hematomas? Where? He goes, "Nowhere." He goes, "They poked everywhere." He goes, "They kind of buggered every spot that you could go." I says, "Okay, all right, but in fairness to them, they had to do their job, and now it's an hour later and we still have no IV. Okay, here's what I want you to do, okay? I'm going to pray to St. Anthony of Padua, who's the patron saint of lost items or items to be found desperately. Got it?" I said, "And I'm going to get an IV on the first poke, and I'm going to do it with my eyes closed." And he just, of course, he thought I was joking. He just stood there like, I'm in med school. I'm doing my surgery rotation. I've heard all sorts of crazy ass stories about surgeons and anesthesia people and what happens down in the OR. People are nasty, people are crazy, people are smart, people are stupid. But this guy's telling me that 3 people couldn't get the IV with their hands and their brains and their eyeballs. And this guy's going to do it with his eyes closed after he prays to a saint that's been dead for many hundreds of years. Get it? Yeah. Okay. I tell the anesthesia people, "Okay, I'm going to get a vein right now. I'm going to get the greater saphenous vein." And they look at me, here he goes, here he goes. And I said, I prepped the area with some alcohol swab. I had my 20 22 IV, whatever the hell it was. And I said, "Dear St. Anthony of Padua, we're in dire straits here. We need an IV." And I grabbed the foot, my eyes were closed, and with this finger, I felt the medial malleolus, and I just went, poop, and I popped through the skin, and I opened my eyes, and there was a backflow of dark red blood. And I advanced the catheter, I pulled out the needle, and there was venous blood. I was in the perfect vein, the perfect IV. I said, "Let's go, give me the line, hook it up, let's go," boop. And I looked at the medical student, I said, "What did you see?" I said, "Do you understand what you just saw?" I said, "No one is going to show you that ever again for the rest of your life. Please do me a favor and remember it." He was like this.
Hmm.
Red hair and freckles. Like that. And of course, all three anesthesiologists completely denied what just happened. And I said, "Really?" I says, "Well, so where were we 5 minutes ago? An hour into this special endeavor. Where were we? No IV, just about to cancel the case. Now we have an IV, now we can, do the surgery that the baby needs." Right? And I've done that over and over and over again. I don't do it as a party trick or a parlor trick, because that's wrong and that's not what we're here for. But I just felt compelled to do that to this medical student because he was bearing witness, and it put us right in that perfect place for me to do that, to say, "I'm going to teach you something that has nothing to do with science at all, and you're going to see it work, and you should be perplexed, and when you get out of here tonight, you should call your parents and tell them what you saw." I don't know if he did that, but yeah.
John, let me tell you, those are two fantastic stories.
Yeah, true story.
And the fact that they're true is amazing. And two things come to mind right away. One, both stories are generational, okay? Your grandmother was much older than you, okay? People, that are a little older tend to have a little more faith. They've seen a lot, they've experienced a lot, and they know maybe through experience that God has helped them, or St. Anthony, with prayer.
Right.
And two is, of course, the ultimate message, the strength of prayer. And how many people refuse to just spend a little time and pray. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
it could.
Because I don't want to seem foolish.
I don't. Well, if usually when you're in dire straits, you're by yourself at some point.
Yeah.
So who you really being foolish to? I mean, are people that stubborn that they won't take a chance and say, "Well, listen," and usually that's when it happens, when you have nowhere else to go. For the people that tend to fight it a little bit, non-believers, or they don't believe in prayer, it has to be dire straits for them to say, "All right, well, I have nowhere else to go, so let me give it a try." And then they become believers, and then all of a sudden they're telling stories, that. I mean, those are two amazing stories. I mean, there's got to be another way. I don't know of any other way to get somebody to pray. I mean, outside of having a podcast and telling these stories to enlighten people.
That's what the podcast is all about. But, I was in dire straits when my grandmother basically had to, playfully humiliate me, when I was on my hands and knees and frantic. So I was in that bad spot, and I've been in that spot many, many times in my life. But after that time, and that was probably 1982, maybe 81. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I have used the power of the connection with St. Anthony of Padua over and over and over again. I have. As a matter of fact, I even used it to find my dog at night when he was loose in the woods, and I was crawling up to my knees in swamp muck and mud. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on with stories about how the saints are there for you. Let me say this, And there's another story about our animal spirit guides in my book. And it's a story about how I came face to face with one of my spirit guides, whose name he told me his name. His name was Preston, and I was going through. You don't mind if I tell the story there?
No, I
I was
love it.
going through a terrible time. I was on the edge of separation and probably a divorce. Three small kids, and my wife at the time worked at night, so she would leave the house around 9:30, and her shift was 10 p.m. to, like, I don't know what, 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was me and the three kids and a dog alone in the house at night. She was always at work, and I would be filled with despair. Filled with despair. I would play my guitar softly on my bed, not to wake the kids up. And then when I was good and exhausted, I would just, put the guitar down and lie on a bed, shut the lights, and pass out and wait for the alarm, the next morning. And and that went on for quite a long time, like, I don't know, 10 months, a year. And then one night, when I closed my eyes, but was still fully awake, I closed my eyes and I found myself standing in a barn. And across the barn from me was a catwalk with a sliding barn door at the top with a hayloft. And to my right were big, big stacks of bales of hay, with things that you'd find in a barn, like brooms and pitchforks and all of that stuff. And I was like, am I so tired I'm hallucinating? And I would open my eyes and I'm in my bedroom. I would close my eyes and I'm in the barn. Open my eyes, bedroom. Close my eyes, barn. I'm like, what the hell? This is crazy. And this went on for quite a long time. You'd think that I would have said to somebody, hey, what, you know, what's the barn all about? What's, should I climb the hayloft? But there was never a ladder there. There was no way for me to get up. I never even thought to go up because there wasn't a stairway and there wasn't a ladder. So I told my friend and associate about this thing that was going on in me. And it was, I don't know, it was quite a while. It was like, I don't know, close to a year afterwards that this is happening to me. And the marriage was getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm talking to her. It's like a counseling session. And she says, she goes, what's in the hayloft up on that catwalk? And I, I was stunned. I sat back in my chair and I said, I don't know. I said, there's no way for me to get up there anyway. I said, there's no stairway and there's no ladder. She says, tonight, she goes, when you close your eyes, you're going to be in the barn. She goes, this time there's going to be a ladder. And I said, how do you know? And she said, trust me. She goes, climb the ladder. She goes, go in that hayloft. Find out what's in there. Okay, right? Now I'm thinking, Johnny's losing his marbles. So it's at night. All the kids to bed. Make sure the dog's got some water. Lock up. Play my guitar. Turn the lights off. Back like this. I'm in the barn. Guess what's in the barn? A ladder. A ladder, big tall ladder leaning up against this catwalk. And the catwalk is easily 10 to 12 feet in the air. Go up the ladder, get onto that catwalk, and that big hayloft door with the cross members, typical old-time slider barn door, not like this slider with the old rusty wheels on the top. I pull it to the left, and there's nothing but pitch black in there, and I can feel kind of a cold gust of air come out at me. And I'm like, I was fearless because this had been going on for too long. And I'm like, then I realized that I have to step down like 2 or 3 feet off this catwalk to get to the floor of the hayloft. So I stepped down and I realized immediately that the floor of the hayloft is dirt. And I'm thinking, how could this be dirt? It's 12 feet in the air. The dirt is down in the barn. All right, it's dirt. So I shut the door behind me. And now I'm standing in absolute pitch blackness. I don't smell anything. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. It's like I'm in Neverland. And all of a sudden, from my left, there's a blinding white light. And I turn and look, and there's a bald eagle under this stage spotlight, the spotlight that an actor doing a monologue or a comedian would have on him, that single, dramatic spotlight, but it was really bright and high def. And this bald eagle was sitting on a perch, like the pole with the bar that goes across, sitting on a perch. And now I'm looking, and I'm like, it, what is going on here? There's a bald eagle. I'm in a barn, in a hayloft, pitch black, and now I'm staring at an eagle. And then I realized this eagle's checking me out. This isn't some, stuffed eagle. It's not a statue or a facsimile of an eagle. It's a bald eagle that's alive and well, and it's sitting there. So the whole conversation that took place was telepathic. We're in a different dimension. Quite frankly, the barn is probably a different dimension, just like dreams are. And I was wide awake. And I looked at this bald eagle and I said, "Who are you?" And he kind of, how birds kind of turn their head when they're trying to get a better beat on you. He turned his head and he looked at me and he said, "Preston." And I was like, "Preston? Like, you have a name? Your name is Preston?" And he looked at me like I was being a jerk. And he said, "My name is Preston." I says, "Well, who are you?" He says, "I'm your spirit guide." He said, "Call on me anytime you need me." And I just said, "Preston." And he just said, "Preston." And then whew, he vanishes and I'm back lying in my bed. I couldn't believe it. Next day I told my friend, she goes, "What was in the hayloft?" She goes, "Something for you. I'm sure the ladder was there." And I said, "Yeah, it was there." And I told her the story. And she says, "There you go." She goes, "This is the beginning of the rest of your life. Your spirit guides, your animal spirit guides are starting to surround you." She said, "Take them seriously." She goes, "Don't think that this is not for real." So in that same vein, where a spirit guide can approach you, don't deny it. That was a long-winded story, but it was a fabulous story. It's a true story. The saints are there for you. They may not be an animal spirit guide, but they're a deity. They're a people spirit guide. And there's many, 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 many saints. And then I came to find out years later from a master in a spiritual healing workshop way, 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 way up in the mountains by Costa Daga, New York. I won't say the name of the place. I was told by the master that I'm a channel for the saints. And I says, "Well, I've met a few of the saints." I said, which ones? And he says, "Oh, no." He said, "All of them." And I was like, I was a little bit put back on my heels. Why? Because there are, I don't know, maybe there's 1,000 saints. Not all of them are Roman Catholic. And I thought I better start acting like it. So that's my story about spirit guides and how the saints act very much like spirit guides. Um, Nobody knows Preston as far as I know but me. And my wolf dog, Lucky, is another spirit guide. He was given to me by one of my patients that passed in his teens of leukemia. But he came to us and visited us, and my wolf dog ends up in meditation with me when I don't ask him to come. He shows up, and he's skulking all around with his nose to the ground. He's behind me, he's to the left, he's to the right, he's circling, he runs ahead, and he's my protector in the different dimensions. And so is Preston, the bald eagle. And the bald eagle is the kind of the chief honcho archetype of the avian archetype. So in other words, the the animal's on the wing. The eagle flies the highest and sees the most. And so Preston is a spirit guide. My wolf dog Lucky is a spirit guide. But I got all the saints backing me up too. Now, if you might be thinking, oh, this guy's full of crap. What makes him so special? The answer is nothing. The same thing would go for you too. You just need to tap into the power of the Holy Spirit in the universe. It's all there for you.
John, there's so many benefits to prayer.
Oh, yeah.
Not only a sense of maybe help is on the way, a sense of security, excuse me, but how do you correlate that along with meditation? I mean, they're almost the same, if not the same.
Yeah. Well, I love that whole topic about prayer and meditation. And on one of the previous episodes, I think we delineated prayer from meditation. Let's do it again because I don't
Please.
think it can be said enough. Um, and I also took the viewers on a guided meditation in the previous episode, and we'll do that again. But for now, prayer is simply talking to, you want to call it the universe? Prayer is talking to the universe. Prayer is talking to the Creator. Prayer is talking to what I would call God. I use that word G-O-D with a capital G because that's how I was raised. My mother taught me to pray when I was like, I think she started that when I was like 2 or 2.5. So that's what's been imprinted in my heart and my mind by one of the greatest empaths that I've ever known, and that was my mother, Catherine Grasso. That was her maiden name, Grasso, Catherine Gallucci. And if you think that prayerful people that have a tremendous reverence for the Creator and the Holy Spirit, who are empaths, who love humanity, that are here in service of others like my mother, if you think that people like that can't be born of an organized crime figure, you're wrong, because that was my mom. So you never know which way the Holy Spirit's coming at you, because we all have a dark side and we all have our God center. We do, right? So you can't pigeonhole everybody, you can't broad brush people the same. You can't, say, all right, oh, these people are all from one bucket and those people are all from another bucket. You can't do that. That's a big, big critical mistake. So prayer is talking to God. Let's simplify it. Prayer is talking to God. And you have got to leave the monkey chatter brain aside. The hardest thing about prayer and meditation is to calm the bullshit chatter out of your mind, because this world, through television and radio and cell phones and laptops and iPads and all that bullshit, it's designed to destroy your energy, to distract your core energy. And when you realize that it's pretty easy to silence the chatter in your crazy ass brain, once you do that, then it's just simply using your heart. Use your heart to speak to God and lay it on the line. Lay it on the line. I've heard so many times I've I've read here and there in religious text and in journal articles, and I've seen it in prayer that God wants you to remain small. I don't think that's true at all. You are not small, and I'm going to tell you why you're not small. Because your Creator is the universe, and there's nothing small about the universe, or what I would call God. And if God creates you, and you've heard me say this over and over and over again, if God is the Creator, and the Creator creates you, why would the Creator produce a cluster of grapes that doesn't have seeds? Do you get what I'm saying? God is not going to produce a bunch of duds, a bunch of people, a bunch of souls that are not creators, because you are a creator. You are here and you were meant to use your God-given free will and your creativity and your imagination and your heart energy and your emotions. Don't be small, be big, and change the world. Prayer is talking to God. The difference between prayer and meditation is you want to start skipping dimensions. You want to go from this existential third dimension that we're in. You want to go to the fourth dimension, the fifth, and even higher. Start practicing meditating, and what you do is you increase your body energy. You increase your life frequency. All of us have an energetic bubble that's around us, and when you increase your frequency, it's kind of like turning the dial on the radio. You go from 98 point something all the way up to 107.1 on the radio dial, and you're in different worlds. You're in different radio dimensions, because the transducer in your car can pick up all of those, but when you turn the dial, you're going from one to the next, because they're all at different frequencies. So, you think you can't talk to God directly? Yes, you can. You can talk to God through prayer, and you can go and visit the different realms and different dimensions that your favorite deities exist in, because if you're sincere enough and you use your heart and your emotion, they know you're coming. You go up halfway, and they'll meet you halfway. They'll come down. Thus, there's a chapter in here where I describe meeting different saints face to face, and then being introduced to Jesus Christ face to face, and he gave me his marching orders from his face to mine. Not a joke, friends. Not a joke. This is like the 800-pound. Well, gorillas aren't 800 pounds. Maybe they're 400 or 500 pounds. But this is the 500-pound gorilla in the room that the world system doesn't want you to know exists. They don't want you to know that you're a creator. They don't want you to know that you're a chip off the old block from the Creator. They don't want you to know, plant an onion, get an onion, or the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They don't want you to know that, because they want to control you, and they want to own your ass, and they want to own your soul. Don't ever let them own your soul.
Well said, John, as usual. I think a lot of people with prayer, John, I believe that they want instant results. You know, they want to get out of, oh, I need to get out of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do turn to prayer, they pray a little bit, maybe a day, maybe two, oh, see, nothing happens. Like,
Right.
they're not in it for the long haul. I know situations I've been in that I needed an escape route. I mean, I was praying, and it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen.
Right.
You know, it's almost like you're being tested, like, okay, how long are you going to pray for? I mean, you really have to put the time in and put the work in, you know, do the work and do those prayers and stay with it and become a believer that it is possible.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I'm going to expound upon that. There's a couple of, I guess, they're not gurus in the sense that they're Hindu gurus wearing a white, a white garb with a long white beard. So I watch some of those people too. Guru Nath and Sadhguru, I think, are fun to watch, and there's a lot of wisdom in what they say. And I love reading all about Gautama Buddha.
There you go.
Okay, Gautama Buddha. I just had to go back to the original thought.
About prayer, people want instant results. They don't want to put the work in.
They don't want to put the work in. I was going somewhere with this. Um, Buddha, gurus. Oh, oh, yeah. You brought up a good point. And when you make that spiritual, energetic connection, and you start to experience supernatural happenstance, it's so exciting. It's like, my God, I've finally found you. It's like, wow, everything I wanted this connection to be that I've heard about, it is. And you'll ride that wave of spiritual euphoria for months and months and months. And then guess what happens? Boop, your coaxial cable is going to get cut. All of a sudden, your connection is gone and you're being tested. And I've heard it put exactly that way, that you've gained entry, through the first gates, so to speak. Enter through the narrow gate. All right, you enter through the narrow gate, right? Because the wide gate is wide and easy, and it leads to perdition, which is death and destruction. Enter the kingdom through the narrow gate, right? And you do that, and you think, my God, I've made it. I've got the spiritual connection that I've heard about all my life, and here it is. I'm so thrilled. And in time, the gates are going to slam shut on you, or the coaxial cable gets cut, and you will feel like you lost your connection. Don't fret. You're being tested. This happens over and over again. I've heard gurus talk about this. I've heard religious deity people talk about this, and I've experienced it, and I've discussed it with, cohorts that kind of are connected, kind of like me, and they'll say, "Oh my God, yeah, you're right, and it took me like 6 months." One person said it took me 2 years to get back in. You're being tested. You're being tested. You think that because you gained access, that it's going to be permanent? Well, in a broad sense, it is permanent, right? But in the short term, it's not. It's not permanent. You're being tested, and it's almost like, let's see how much he or she wants this connection, and you gotta go after it. You gotta dial up the meditation. You gotta dial up the emotion, because, quite frankly, there's no better way to spend your time and your energy than trying to gain that connection to the universe, to the heavens, to the Creator. And that's how I've heard that. It happened to me, and I find it all to be true.
John, it seems to me like life, prayer, and God, you're on a journey. You're on a journey.
Yeah.
Your journey with God, my life with God.
My life
I
with
mean,
God,
that's got to be why the title is there. I mean, come on. It's my journey with God. I mean, you are on it from maybe a non-believer. Maybe you were brought up a little bit with some religious beliefs, and then you went and you said, we don't need prayer. We don't need this. We don't need God. But then as your life goes on, you get into certain situations, and before you know it, you're turning back to God.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and you start the prayer journey again.
And I think that, it's all meant to be, but where most people go wrong is they completely, 1,000% buy into the fact that the physical, third dimensional, existential world that we're in, this world of duality, we buy into it so fervently that we think it's the only existence. And the people that perpetrate all sorts of evil upon humanity, I've said it before that, some of them have no souls. And that may sound harsh, but I'm serious. So either way, you're called upon to pray for the people that are here in service of others. They can always use your prayers. It's like a boost, right? But the people who are here that are just steeped in darkness, that you can't believe the things that they do and how they live their lives. Hey, we could make $16 billion, $23 billion if we start a war in the Middle East, and we'll get the concession for the food services and for the laundry and for the housing and for the ammunition and for the all. There are people who do that, and those people are big time in service of themselves at the expense of millions of other people. Wow. Those people need your prayers, whether they have a soul or not. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you pray for, right? I mean, to pray for greed and power.
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure there are people that do that. There's an old fable that I'm going to butcher, and it's basically going back into the 1800s, and there was a farmer, and to compete with the other farmers, he needed to buy some more cattle. So there was a cow he wanted to buy, and it cost $2. Okay, that shows you how old this story is. $2. So he prayed and prayed. I need $2. Where am I going to get $2 from? I need that. I need that cow. I need to, expand. What can I do? He was like crazy about it. That's
Right.
what his mindset was. Not for any purpose except for greed and power and more money. So he gets a knock on the door one day, and it was his son was in the army, and it was somebody from the military
Oh boy.
knocked on the door and gave him bad news that
Yeah.
his son was killed in battle. He was a hero, and he said, "And here's your belongings," and he handed him. He had $2 in his pocket.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a crazy story, right? I mean,
No,
be
but I
careful
mean
what you
that
pray
kind of stuff.
for.
Yeah.
He wanted to do anything for $2, whatever it takes.
Yep.
Tough lesson learned.
Wow.
On that note, John, let's alchemize this section, which I
Okay.
really enjoyed.
Yeah. Um, right. So this wasn't an episode that dealt with a dark issue, and now we have to kind of nudge people and help people to become aware and then cure what we're aware of. This was more, I guess, an episode of awareness of the tools that are available to you, the spiritual tools that are available to you. And guess what, people? You really are an eternal spirit. You're a soul that's having a temporary physical existence. We ride around in these taxi cabs called human bodies. And when you realize that that's true, and the truth behind it all is it's our soul, right? It's all based in energy. Well, if that's the case, and I promise you that it is, we have spiritual tools and help that's all around us. You've just been conditioned to not believe it, right? So I think that we're going to just do a little thanks to the Creator. Thank you, God, for giving us the spiritual help, the animal spirit guides, the deities, the saints, the angels and the saints, giving us close friends and associates that help us through our lives. These are the tools that we have, and they're all around us. So thank you, God, for the help. We are here as emissaries of the light. We are here as light workers. We are. And there's waves and waves of youngins that are being born that are known as star seeds and crystal children and rainbow children. And we've come in waves. So the older people, like myself and Phil, we've kind of paved the path and made the path straight. Not unlike John the Baptist, who paved a straight path for the coming of the Messiah, who was his cousin, who was Jesus of Nazareth, who was the embodiment of the Christ consciousness. So look to your spirit guides, look to the angels and the saints, pray to the Creator, which is a conversation between you and the Creator, and when you meditate, you will go and visit. Get good at it, stick with it, don't be discouraged. It's there waiting for you. God bless. See you next time on The Jersey Alchemist.
Great job. Great podcast, John. If you like what we're doing, people, press the like button and subscribe. The Jersey Alchemist. Peace.